Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Mario Wold and I want to present to you cognitive architecture and cognitive load theory. Who could be interested in this video? Maybe you are a teacher or another kind of instructor and you want to improve your teaching, or maybe you are a learner and want to understand how learning works and what you could improve to enhance your learning. Therefore, you should know cognitive load theory. I'm a computer scientist, but I will try to relate to many other subjects or fields. To my person, I'm a PhD student and a teacher. I'm a teacher for over 10 years in Germany now, and fortunately, I'm a PhD student since the last year. And for my research, I get deeper into cognitive load theory and want to share this information with you. I will have a lot of references at the end of the video. This is going to be a long video, so use the chapters of the YouTube video, use pause, use skip if there are things you don't know or you don't want to know. So you could do that to skip points that are not relevant for you. The content, I will start with cognitive architecture and then we'll go over to cognitive load theory. There are two kinds of the theory, the old and the new one. And the definitions for that I will bring to you. We will have a first interim conclusion. We will have a look at possibilities and limits of this theory. Then I will tell you what effects have been found of researchers in consideration with cognitive load theory, or that can be explained by cognitive load theory, but this will, at point 5, will just be an overview. We will then have a second interim conclusion and we'll have a look at the question, do the effects match to the theory? And then at point 7, we will go deeper into the theory. We'll have a look at the different papers that found out the special effects, and we will come to a conclusion at the end. What is cognitive architecture? We look through the prism of evolutionary psychology, and humans are formed by evolutionary processes, and this has made a big effect on us. We will differ two kinds of knowledges. We have primarily biologically primary knowledge, like listen, speak, or recognize faces. These are all things we can do, and we have learned it at a very young age, and we can not explain this, how we do this, how we recognize faces. We can just do this, these things. And then we will have biologically secondary knowledge, everything we do in school or university or what else is to do to teach the learner biologically secondary knowledge. And to get biologically secondary knowledge, we can use all these primary knowledges, like listening or speaking or recognize faces or what else. Cognitive architecture or cognitive load theory are theories that arose in psychology. It was researched how humans' behavior, learning works, and a lot of things have been found out, and there are 5 primary principles that have been found out for humans. The first principle is information store principle. Humans have a large long-term memory. We can store a lot of things, and if we get old and we don't get ill, this amount of things we know is getting higher and higher. There are no known limits for that. And this is a primary function. We don't have to teach pupils how to store something in their long-term memory. This is biologically primary skill. And then we have the second principle, borrowing and reorganizing principle. Humans can provide and receive information in social context and reorganize knowledge. Maybe 3 people sit at a fire and are talking about horses, and one of them has seen a white horse, and the other, both 2 people, never seen a white horse before. So what is happening? The 2 people that never seen it before load the Schema horse and can reorganize this principle and can store it back to their long-term memory again. So we humans are used to that. We share information and reorganize all the day information. The randomness as genesis principle is the third principle that we have if we humans don't have any information of how to do something, because there are no other humans we can talk to and can ask how to solve that problem. There's nothing else that we can do than just randomly generate a move, or maybe systematically generate a move and test for effectiveness. And then we will have to see if this works or if we have to skip this move and try something else. This is a principle. If you look at a young child and it has a problem, it will randomly generate a move and we'll look what happens. The fourth principle is the narrow limits of change principle. We humans have a working memory, and there are severe limitations. We are not very good in remembering numbers or something like that. If somebody told us a number or a sequence of numbers, and we have not a paper and a pen, so we cannot write it down, we are not very good in remembering a large amount of numbers. So we humans have a very small working memory, but a very big long-term memory. The fifth principle is environmental organizing and linking principle. There are no known limits. When we load a schema from the long-term memory and we can enrich this schema, we can have an example. Maybe we have the restaurant as an example. We can load it. Maybe I should step to the next slide and I can present it a little bit better. This is a summary of what I've told you just before. There are this area is the human. We have every human contains a long-term memory, and we have a working memory. And there's the environment we can perceive information from the environment. We have sensors, we have eyes, we have ears, or something like that, and we can perceive information from the environment, and we can act, we can speak, we can show gestures or something like that. Maybe there's the schema of a restaurant. If I tell you something about a restaurant, you would load your schema. Maybe you have a schema for that restaurant, and if you are 20 or 30 years old, of course you will have a schema. You have been in a restaurant before. So if something tells you about a restaurant, you will load your schema to your working memory, and maybe somebody tells you about there has been a robot in this restaurant, and this robot brings you the meal. And maybe this is new to you, and then you will perceive this. You talk to someone else, and this is taught to your working memory, and then you combine this. Okay, a robot can be in a restaurant and can bring you the meal, and this is stored back again. And the fifth principle that I want to explain is that this schema that we have in the long-term memory can be enriched and can get richer and richer and richer when we get old. There are no known limits. If you think about a child that comes to a restaurant, is maybe 3 or 4 years old, and is in a restaurant for the first time in his life, it will probably will have to look 5 minutes or something like that at the whole processes, or there are tables and many tables, much more than in a normal room at home. And there are chairs, and there's a bar, and there are people bringing meal, and there are many persons sitting around, and something like that. And a small child will have to look at all these things because there are no there's no schema that can be loaded for this child. And so there are many things in this working memory, and all of these things have to be performed or processed at the same time. And if we have this in the working memory, we can create a schema, and this information can get stored. And this will take a certain amount of time for this child to do that. And what Schonzweller et al. Say is that what we call understanding is occurs when high element interactivity material can be held simultaneously in the working memory. If we have different elements, and these elements interact with each other, this is what they call element interactivity. There are kinds of learning where you don't find element interactivity. Maybe you are learning vocabulary. This is one by one. There's no interactivity between this vocabulary. But if you have maybe you're learning math, and you have a term that contains different variables, these variables interact, because if you want to transform the term, all these things interact, and you have to consider what happens if I multiply with A, what is happening on the left side, what is happening on the right side, and there are other variables, and this is element interactivity. So what does human cognitive architecture tells us? We have a working memory, and this is the key point of the cognitive load theory. The working memory has very severe limitations. About 7 items, there are minimal variation, plus minus 2 items, but we humans have a very, very small working memory. The long-term memory, as I said before, is very big. There are no known limits, and I use these dots here to make or to show that this is infinite. And so this is very, very big, but I have to display it. So it has become this size, but these dots means the long-term memory is infinite. We humans have different processors for audio and for visual inputs because it's evolutionary clear that we humans always have to look and to hear at the same time. We have to see something if we were hunting and someone is calling us or tells us something. We have to process both things. So we have different processors to do this, and if we use items in the working memory and we will use it for a certain time or in an interaction with other items, these could be stored to long-term memory. But it is not clear that this will happen. So we have time constraints for the working memory. Maybe you know there's somebody tells us a phone number, we want to remember it, and oh no, damn, it's gone. For 2 seconds ago, it was there, and now it's gone. This is what happens to us humans. So we have time constraints, and something that is not used, is disappearing from the working memory. But if we can connect information to other schemata that can be loaded, we can enrich one schema and store this to the long-term memory. So cognitive load theory tells us that we humans are not very good in this. And if we think about grandmasters of chess, they have the same problem as every human, this very, very small working memory. What a grandmaster of chess can do is he can load a lot of schemata, and if he see a board position, he can remember, he can load a similar schema to this working memory. Oh, this board position looks like the chess final of the year 1970, and the next move from the winner was maybe move the tower, whatever. So this is what chess grandmasters can do. They have they have played chess for a long time, and they know many board positions, and they get their benefits from the long-term memory. Chess grandmasters cannot do a lot of calculations in the future, so they don't calculate 10 moves ahead what could be the board position in 10 moves. They just will do a move that has been done in the past because they know it already. So there are 2 terms that we will use. We will use the term schema construction. This means if something is new and definitely unknown, we have to construct a schema. Maybe I had given this example with the restaurant and the small kid who's 3-year-old. There has to be a schema that is constructed. We have this restaurant schema. Okay. And there are schemata that can be automated. Then we will use the term schema automation. If we think about grammatic grammatically construction in a foreign language. We can construct a schema, and this is a process that we have to think about, and then this will take a long time. And if we have used this a lot of times, the schema is getting automated. And when it's getting automated, we can process it very, very fast. We don't have to think about it like riding a bicycle. You cannot explain how you ride a bicycle, when put your left knee down or whatever. You don't think about it. It is a schema that is very, very much automated. But if you want to tell a young kid how to ride a bicycle, maybe you will have to think about it, because this schema has to be constructed at the kid. So we will now come to the definition for cognitive load. And the cognitive load theory is concerning about these severe limitations of the working memory, and everything we want to learn must get through this bottleneck. This is like a bottle. We have this big environment with a lot of information. We have this small working memory, and we've got this very, very big long-term memory where humans can learn a lot of things, but everything has to pass this bottleneck. And this is what cognitive load theory is about. And this could give us a lot of hints as a teacher or instructor how to optimize material for the learners. The old cognitive load theory has three definitions. We have intrinsic load, we have germane load, and extraneous load. And the working memory could be loaded with these three types of load. I will explain this. What is the intrinsic load? The intrinsic load is the nature of the material. We cannot change the nature of the material. If we want to add two complex numbers, we have to do this addition. We have to understand what is a complex number. And this is the intrinsic load. We can just reduce it by the pre-knowledge. We should before have understood how to add two real numbers or normal numbers or what else. But the intrinsic load of adding two complex numbers is the nature of the material. We cannot change it. So it's neutral. What is extraneous load? Extraneous load is the bad load. This is load that is caused through bad instruction, bad material. So this is variable. We as teacher or instructor can change it. And if we have this severe limitations of the working memory, if we have this bottleneck, we have to get sure that this extraneous load is very, very low. And there is, in the old definition of the cognitive load theory, there is a germane load. And this is a good load. It reflects the effort that contributes to the construction of schema. There's a new definition. John Zweller has given us a new definition because there were different problems with this definition of the germane load, because it couldn't be distinguished to intrinsic load. And so he is calling that we have germane resources that can deal with intrinsic load. And in the new definition, we have just the intrinsic load and the extraneous load. So we have this intrinsic nature of the material that has been learned. And we want to reduce extraneous load so that learning could happen at the best way possible. Extraneous cognitive load is the element interactivity that is caused by instructional factors. So this could be altered by the instructor, the teacher. And the intrinsic load is caused by the element interactivity. And this cannot be eliminated. So why must it be new? It eliminates a potential contradiction and criticism to the old theory. It's further much easier to differentiate between the load components. We can measure the overall cognitive load, and if we compare this, we can know what is the extraneous load by a learning material, and so we can understand what is happening. The definition of the new cognitive load for me is very conceiving and a logical conclusion. So for the presentation or my research, I would like to use this term. So I will refer to germane, not to germane load, only to extraneous load and to intrinsic load. We have only these two types in the working memory. Let's have a first interim conclusion. Cognitive load theory help us to understand the problems of the learner and the given nature of humans and human behavior and human learning. There are many effects that have been documented, and I will present to you later. And cognitive load theory tries to explain all this in one theory. It is a very good practical theory for doing research because it creates falsifiable hypotheses that can be tested, and we can do research and not believing. And so we're learning more and more, and this is really, really good. The role of cognitive load theory is to micromanage instruction at a fine grain. This is a very famous quote and very precise. Because for us as a teacher or instructor, it is it's a must to understand how learning works and to be aware of this very small working memory of this bottleneck. But cognitive load theory does not address other topics like motivation, self-regulation, or something like that. So it has to be enriched by other theories, but to plan materials or single lessons, we could use cognitive load theory very, very good. If we want to create a teaching project or whole curricula, a teaching project over several weeks, we can use the 4-component instructional design model that Kirchner and Marienberg have presented. And this concept, 10 steps to complex learning, has summed up all these effects so that we can create a teaching project and that considers all of these effects that have been found out by researchers. So this was the first introduction to the cognitive load theory. This is the end of the first video. I will show you further videos where I will explain the different effects. So if you are interested, just have a deeper look at the next videos, and thank you for watching.